Hello. This is a lot of you that are interested in this initiative, so thank you so much for coming. We are now the combined Admin UI and JavaScript Modernization Initiative. This is our silly logo. Feel free to wave at us. Oh, yeah, this is a core conversation, so we're going to give you a little presentation, and then we'd like to get feedback and questions and discussions from all of you here. So just to introduce us, we are some of the initiative leads. My name is Sally. I live in London, and I work at Lullabot.
I'm Lauri Escola. I'm not an initiative lead, but I'm a front-end framework manager. And I've been involved with the initiative, so I'm just here with the initiative coordinators today.
Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm also just involved in the initiative, and I'm working in London for Times Higher Education.
Hi, I'm Cristina. I'm also a coordinator, and I live in Barcelona and work for Imran. I'm a designer and front-end developer.
Cool. So 12 months ago at DrupalCon Vienna, how many of you were there? Great. So we had this amazing long thread on Drupal.org, which was let's adopt a JavaScript framework, and lots of people had lots of opinions, and so eventually we thought we better pick something. So we all got together and we decided to pick React because most of the people doing the work knew React. It's very popular, as you've probably noticed, and there are other good points to it as well. Like, we saw the job market was really saturated with jobs for React, so we wanted to pick something that would be good for everyone to learn. So we chose that, and then we decided we might want to now figure out what it is we actually wanted to build, which was kind of the wrong way around of doing it, but the thread had gone on long enough. So we did that.
And then a little bit over 6 months after, we met again in Front-End United and kind of wanted to regroup to figure out like a little bit more concrete goals, I guess, because we were kind of like just testing how React could work with Drupal and just kind of making some small demos. And we wanted to build something a little bit bigger, and that's what you essentially saw on the trees node, and we are going to show you a little bit more today. So we met at the Front-End United. That was 4 months ago, and what we decided was that we would be focusing next on the content authoring experience because that affects the biggest group of users. And it also involves a big part of our API spectrum so that we get experience from like real a group of APIs that represent what is important in Drupal.
I'd also add to that in between those two events, we tried out lots of different prototypes. So I'm not sure if you're all aware, but to make clear, what we're working on right now is a decoupled admin interface for Drupal. We tried things that were sort of embedded in Drupal, and the developer experience wasn't great, and mixing in with our current JavaScript stuff was a little terrifying. So that's what we ended up with, what we were doing in those points. We're missing a speaker. I'm sort of hoping he would wander in. So one of us will have to pretend to be Matt. You can pretend to be Matt. You're the tallest.
All right, I'm Matt now from California. And I'm working for Acquia. And I'm in it. Yeah, with German accent. Yeah, sadly, the German train system is excellent. All right. So Laurie was just talking about what we started to build in Front-End United, but we had like some basic principles, like something we try to do better than the current Drupal UI. So one is like simplification, right? The current Drupal UI tries to like target basically everyone, and by targeting everyone and be as generic as possible, it kind of targets no one. And as Laurie said, we want to target the content author, so it means like we can just limit ourselves to this particular audience. Yeah, on top of that, we also want to make it actually nice looking. Christina will talk more about that. Yeah, So the other one, embrace. So like Drupal, especially like Drupal 7 and 6 was on its own island, and I think we want to like get away to the mainland. I don't know how you call that, but like the JS ecosystem is huge. I mean, I don't know, like one of the React core developer has more followers, like 4 times more than Dries or something. So what I want to say is like there's like a gigantic amount of people out there, probably like 1 million JS developers, probably like maybe even more. So like there are, yeah, oh no, sorry. Anyway, there are like infinite like NPM packages, for example, we can use. React as a like framework is really flexible and has a lot of extensions as well. So that was kind of the idea. We don't want to like reinvent everything again from scratch.
So what we are going to do in this initiative is, well, we've already kind of surfaced this, but we will design a new UI, which Christina is working on. So we've kind of split the initiative into 2 groups at the moment. So we have Christina's team working on redesigning what we have, and then we have another group of technical people who has been kind of prototyping how React works with Drupal and what kind of problems there are potentially in this kind of new architecture where everything is decoupled on the admin UI. We've been also focusing before Drupal Europe into making some of the changes that we have on the admin UI repository in the Drupal core, so that maintaining the Drupal core JavaScript would be less painful, I guess, and it would be more similar to what it is in modern JavaScript. But we're not really going to talk about that today here, because we feel like it's less important than all the admin UI things that are pretty exciting.
Okay, so on the part on the UI and UX changes, it's separate. We are 2 separate teams. On one side, there's the UX team that we are doing some user tests, and on the other side, we are UI and designers team that we are working on Figma, that it's mainly like a Google Docs interface where we can just design together. And on the user test, we started with a survey where it was, I think, 2 months ago, where we had help from the DA to make it get to more people, and those are some of the results that we have. For example, most of the people say that there's most of the users are saying that they love having so much flexibility in Drupal, but they don't like the UI, the complexity that we give to them in exchange for having so much flexibility. On the other side, most of them mentioned that they would like to have a better media management. Then almost all of them also say that they need a better what you see is what you get editor, because they feel like this is what we have right now is kind of outdated. And also, especially the ones that are not technical or they just work on content, they think that most of the text that is right now on the UI is super Drupal focused or too much technical. So they have a lot of troubles understanding where they have to go to do whatever they want to do. And also what they were asking is that they would like to have their own menu, or, well, most of them, they didn't express that in that way, but they mentioned that they would like to have like a clear way to go everywhere and to have an easy way to get to the pages they want to go, and not to have so many items in the menu that they don't know what they are. We are also working on a card sorting, mainly to find information architecture that the content author is expecting. And also it will probably say to us if we really need to have a content author menu specifically for that. We want to learn from this card sorting. It's right now on Twitter, one of the team. So one of the people on the team just published that some days ago, and it's probably going to be live for 1 or 2 weeks, so if you can spread the word and ask for content authors to take the survey to do the card sorting, it would be great to get to more people and learn more about what they would like to have. Also, we have the wireframes test. We just published the wireframes around the community to start getting feedback from them. They are just a first step. They are not final. They are just a tool to get input from people, what they think it makes sense, what they don't think it could be archival in a technical way. So we are just starting to show it to different initiatives and to get input from people. And we will also do a comparative study, initially with WordPress, with Gutenberg, Squarespace, and Contentful. But there's been a bunch of people asking for do a comparative study with other tools. So we are going probably to do a second round or maybe a third one study. The people that is working on that are Sarah Lowe and Michelle Kennedy and Suzanne and Antonella. We are like 5 or 7 people. If you want to join us, we are usually on the admin UI channel, and we are okay, we are always looking for new people to join the initiative. And okay, those are the wireframes that we've been working so far. This will be the main, this will be the backend form mode. Here you can see there's like a toolbar for quick links for changing layout, form mode, and some kind of things. We have all the fields here. You're going to see later that there's something that looks like Gutenberg. We don't want to change the UI to Gutenberg. Don't worry. And we have then the settings here that could be hidden. So that's the first attempt to have something to talk about, and there's nothing decided here. So the main thing here is probably here, the form mode. What we want to do here is to be able to give the final user, the content author, something like that. And that looks like Gutenberg, but don't worry, we are not trying to make Drupal WordPress or something like that. So for us, the main thing here is that the user will be able to see what they are doing and actually edit that, see how it looks like, and edit that. But what about all these fields that they won't have here, like tags or like, I don't know, another field that will be seen in another view mode? Then you have the form mode, and with the form mode, you can switch to the classic form mode, backend form mode. I don't know, we really need to work on the terminology. But that's the main thing. That's the final goal for the content author. They were asking for that. We don't want to change Drupal. We just want to make things easier. And we have to decide what's archival here. We had to talk with the people from the layout initiative. We need to talk exactly what are we going to showcase on this visualization. What about the couple tabs? What about all these things? We need to discuss that. Of course, the form mode, are there going to be 1, 2, or 3 form modes? I don't know. That's something that we need to talk about. Translation, and what other things can we add here? That's the phase. That's a place we are right now, and we have to discuss. So if you have any input, please come and tell us. On the other side, we're working on the design. We're working with Archita Aurora from India, also Antonella, and well, several, Roy and Dennis gone from the Netherlands, several people, and Luis also helped, and there's been several people helping on that. The main goal here is to find a design system that is based on components, and all of them are going to work both on the new UI and also the 7 refresh. So what's the 7 refresh? It is ideally the first step before having the full UI, new UI, where you can switch from old the old theme, all the old 7, and jump to the new one, and having the same components working there, so the same buttons, the same fields, so you don't have this super different interface. The problem that we have here is that we don't have enough people to work on that, because people, is super excited about React or JavaScript and so on, and there's not that many people excited about working on all the stuff. So we are waiting to see if more people get involved and on helping on that, on applying this design system in this 7th refresh, because we don't want to start from scratch for a new 7, because you know how many, well, some of you know how many years were taken to get where we are right now, and there's a lot of stuff still being done on 7. So we just want to change colors and these kind of things. We don't want to make everything. Hi, Matt. And that's how it will look like. It's just 7. For example, this kind of thing. At the beginning, we just wanted to move things around, and finally, we really decided that we just don't want to change things. We just want to change colors, maybe change typography, and that's all, because otherwise, we won't be able to make that before the new admin UI is there. And that's all.
All right. I mean, we don't have that much time left because it's a core conversation, so we will keep this part with this small. I mean, I don't know. I mean, we already talked about that. We prototyped like the new UI, and as part of like working on this new UI, we just thought, oh, what interesting ideas could we like do in JS, which we can't do yet really easy in PHP. And one thing you have probably seen is this like restore content functionality. Which basically asks you, when you create an article and you have not saved the article before, it will like show like a little pop-up there, and it will ask you. And I'll just quickly go over the architecture which enables that. We do have one thing which is called the state, which stores everything the current application has in memory, kind of. One thing it stores, for example, if you're on the content list, it will store every piece of content. And if you edit a piece of content, it would store this piece of content you are currently editing. And then we pass along this state to the application, which then renders this part. And every time the user changes anything on this application, it updates the state. So you see like there's like a kind of like a circle going on. And the only thing this restore content functionality does is it enhances this diagram. So every time you update the state, it also saves it to local storage. And then if the user actually comes onto the page the first time, we look up in the content storage, oh, is there anything stored? Oh, sorry, in the local storage. Is there anything stored? And if there's stored, we're going to ask the user, and then it sets the initial state, and then everything goes on from there. I think these kind of architectures that really enables like good UX in the future. Another thing I quickly want to mention is that we are using the API first initiative, like all their tools they are building, for example, JSON API, which is really good because like we built kind of a like more generic UI than normal users would have to. So we are like trying to find like the edge cases. One thing, for example, is that we work a lot with like schemas. Because we auto-generate our UI, we need to like know what kind of pieces of content does like a content type consists of. So we struggle to, well, we currently, we haven't found the right solution yet how to properly get the schema in the perfect way, because it's not just schema, it's also like UI schema in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, so we used Material UI to build this prototype because we haven't had the designs ready yet. So has anyone used the Material UI project? A few people? Cool. Yeah, it's really good. We've just been able to go in and just grab components and click them together and be like, derp, derp, I'm designing, which has been fun. Whilst all the designers are there going, oh God, what have they done? Yeah, so like, eventually we'll throw those components away, but we've still got all the, the state architecture and that underneath that we can use. And we've been progressively building out pages. So if you install the demo, then you can have it switch between Drupal and the admin UI. It's just replacing roots right now. It's a little bit jarring, but if you want to try it, you're more than welcome. Is this a demo? Is this it switching? I have to go to the next slide. Cool. That's the old one. Oh, this is the new one. There we go. It's fancy. Is there another one? Okay. Is this the old one? Maybe you should talk about this. Has anyone actually tried the demo on GitHub? A few people? Okay, so if you go onto our GitHub, which will be able to, I don't know if there's a slide for it. It's JS Drupal. It's on there. You can use a quick install for Drupal to get a demo up. It's using Create React App. Has anyone used that? A few people? A few more people? Okay, so if you want to get started with React, you could not worry about this for now. Go try Create React App. Get going with that. It's a project from Facebook. It masks all of the JavaScript tooling, which is actually kind of the hardest bit of getting into this ecosystem. And once you get going with that, you can come to this project and everything should look very familiar, which is nice because there's a lot of people using Create React App. So they are our demos. And now we're ready for your questions and thoughts. We have a spare microphone. Can we have this one on, please? What am I going to do? Oh, yeah, wait. We have this other thing. So we actually had, we've had lots of new contributors, which has been fantastic. So I don't know if you know we're on GitHub. And so we've had lots of new people joining who I think wouldn't necessarily have come in if we were doing stuff on Drupal.org. And one of them was actually responsible for a ton of cool features, including the multi-file upload and lots of amazing things. His name is Vijay, and I think he's at the back there. And I think Vijay's actually a React developer. He wasn't really doing Drupal before. But we have a little present for him, so we want him to come up so we can say thanks, and we can embarrass him. Yay! You got it. So thank you so much. This is the Golden Peace Wave Award. So this is for you to say thank you so much. Yay. If you want to stay up here, you can ask questions with us. Okay, so now we can have your questions. Here you go.
All right, so I know this is a bit in the future, but what happens with contrib and custom routes in the admin?
I know. We're not sure. We have ideas, and probably all of our ideas are different. I mean, I could tell you mine, which is that maybe you can't make custom routes anymore. Maybe it's all auto-generated. And I think on some level, if you want to provide a component, then we're going to have our own NPM registry or something like that, so it can all be pulled down in the package.json. We don't know. If you want to come and help us with that, please do. One of the things we're very mindful of is just like not upsetting everyone, because you all have your workflows and making your contrib modules. One thing to bear in mind, though, is that we are able to do a lot of stuff for you now that you couldn't before. So one of the things we're working on is auto-generating config forms for you. So if you have config entities, you won't have to make forms for that anymore. And one of the things Daniel mentioned was having this kind of UI schema. So you could maybe annotate your config entities. So you could say, like, actually, I want this to be radio buttons instead of select. So it's something very basic like that, so you can have some form of control. So hopefully we can do a lot of the work for you. And then when you want to build these UIs that are like very, very custom. I'm hoping you'll find it a lot easier to do in React and you won't be really angry with us. But we need all your feedback on that. Does anyone else have like thoughts on? Okay. Anyone else?
Question for Christina, really. The updates to the 7 UI, are they going to be actually to the 7 theme, or are we going to get a new theme so people can choose when to switch?
So, yeah, that's a good question. Probably we should start working on for now on a separate theme, because we don't want to mess with other work that is already being done. And also, the main problem or the main thing that we have in the middle there is that actually getting something done in Drupal.org is really hard. So we are trying to start on GitHub for now. It's a clone of 7 for now. And there are some issues there. For each component, there's an issue there, and we're trying to start there. And then when we have like something that makes sense and will need so many changes there that actually can be reviewed, then we should jump to place that on Drupal.org or something like that, or GitLab or whatever is then there. But otherwise, it's super hard to make that there.
Thank you.
Hi. No, we are in Drupal 8. So does the theme name will be 8 instead of 7? 9. 9. You're looking into the future. No, that's all.
If no one else has a question, we kind of have like questions or guidance prepared. Yeah. Who wants to talk about it?
Yeah, so we've been kind of figuring out our next steps, and we would like to get some feedback from you on our next steps. And so one of the things we've been thinking is if we would build an interface that works only with plain Drupal installation. And that would be the first step that you could test. Of course, eventually it would support something else. But would shipping something like this be useful for anyone? So maybe we can just do a raise hands. And if you want to say yes, maybe raise hands. If no, then don't raise hands. One person finds it useful to test something like that. Maybe some. Most people don't.
I'm curious why you wouldn't find it useful. Does anyone like have feedback on that? Yeah. Should we start like a key, like if you want to ask a question, like maybe queue up down here. Sorry, they normally have like a mic in the middle.
I guess I feel like it would be useful if you had that default to be like you go back to 7 if you don't control the route, right? Which would be jarring but it would be more useful in the sense that there are no plain Drupal sites. So I think that's, I mean, for me, like thinking of sites I made, like it would be useful because it would make the pages that it supported better, but if it stopped me from configuring administration forms that aren't covered, it would sort of stop me from using the site.
Yeah, so we do have the fallback functionality on full pages that are not covered by the new admin UI. So that, for example, if you go on the performance page, which is not supported by our admin UI, it fallbacks to 7. But not all modules are creating new routes. Some of them, for example, provide new field widgets or things like that that actually extend the pages that we are covering on the new admin UI. And that type of extensions wouldn't really work with the admin UI.
But if you had a way to turn it off on if you had a way to turn it off on entity editing, that would mean that, I mean, obviously it would take a lot of the functionality away, but it would give you all of the other pages that would presumably make a lot better configuration forms.
I think the assumption here is that they'll always live together, and I think eventually we don't want that, or at least I don't know how everyone else feels. Yeah. Hang on. I've lost my train of thought now. Go on.
Well, I mean, one thing which might happen is that like we will ship a different app for content editors and a different app for like all the other configuration you do on the site, and then like the normal, like you can maybe just turn on the content editor experience and keep the existing configuration forms in like the old Drupal way. That way we can maybe make better progress.
Yeah. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. Like, and maybe in the new admin UI, there's just less extension points. And if you really want to add some very intricate custom stuff, then you should probably fork the admin UI and build your own app using our components. Probably. Again, we don't know. Come help us. Yeah.
I mostly just, I think, confirming what Ted said, that what would make it challenging for me to find it useful is if there's a really jarring transition between the new and the old interface and the effect that would have on user experience. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, and my take is that if we kind of most my clients that are editors always use the simple node edit. So if we don't have the support for all the admin pages like log messages and so on, it's not a big problem. But as, I forgot your name, Joe said that, yeah, there might be a problem for the documentation and so on if we have this double off way to edit nodes, kind of what should I have and what should I not. But I think it's good to have the new kind of interface shown, because it can trigger developers to see that, oh, I want that for my widget also. And how did they solve it? So I can read the code. I don't need to go to another place, or I have it near my code so I can see, okay, this is what I should do for my widget.
Hi, my take is also no. And the reason is that on this conference we had multiple booths on how complex editing, like no one is editing body field today. Like we use paragraphs, we use layout builder, and the problems that people face is that how these new types of editing, how editing complex content will interact with content moderation, with content translation, and things like that. So these are hard problems, and people are trying to solve it with existing interface. So it will be really great if changing interface would take into consideration what other working groups are discussing and what decisions they're going to make.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for the input.
Yeah. Come give us more.
So, Christina, I think.
Did you want to respond to the...
Well, yeah, I think so far we are on a really early state, and we really need to take into account, for example, is it working? Yeah. We really need to take into account these kind of things, for example, translations and layout builder, for example, and these super great things that we have right now, and we can't forget them. And we need to speak with these people actually doing this amazing work and try to see how we can make progress on that and not just start from scratch and something like that. So we are on this early step, and we need to see which of these features should go, for example, on the node edit form, and how do we integrate with that. I don't know if someone wants to add.
Yeah, so as part of the user research that the design team has been doing, they figured out that a lot of the content authors are looking for this little bit more enhanced content authoring experience, something like Gutenberg. And we would like to hear from you, because you are the professionals who are probably mostly building sites for content authors. How would your projects benefit from this Gutenberg-like experience?
Yeah, actually, I think a lot. So my answer to the previous question was also no, pretty much for the same reason that Val said, because we use paragraphs in all of our projects, and it's like the foundational part of how you structure your content, so it's kind of like non-negotiable. So if it's not, like if the content editing experience is not tailored towards paragraphs, that's why it wouldn't be useful to me specifically. But then again, like Gutenberg basically is, I mean, I think they call it like box-based or block-based content editing, but it basically is like a paragraphs sort of model. So that would be hugely beneficial and hugely useful. And I mean, I guess in fact even the recent versions of paragraphs that they are trying to enhance the UI, and I think they are like even moving towards something like Gutenberg. You know, you now have like the modal pop-up with the little icons for each paragraph type and stuff like that. I mean, they are obviously like small things, and they won't get towards the full experience in any reasonable amount of time. But yeah, I think that would be very, very beneficial.
Actually, I think, Daniel, you said that. You said unstructured content, or it goes the opposite. I don't remember, but it's like there has to be structured content around, and at some place. I mean, it has to be structured at some point for Drupal having it.
Also, not quite about structured content, but being able to build those UIs, I think, is getting increasingly more difficult with Drupal core. You know, it's still based on jQuery. A lot of people are moving away from that. I mean, how many people here like really understand what's going on with JavaScript in Drupal core? Because it's old and tangly, and I don't think it gets touched all that much, except by a handful of people. I mean, Matt could probably speak more to this, but I think trying to build those things is going to get harder and harder, and so it's sort of needed to move to something like this to make these better experiences that people are expecting. If you have thoughts on that. No? Okay, great.
Core is frustrating to build new things for.
Yeah, I mean, one thing we certainly agreed on is that we need some level of unstructured content. I think there's no way around that. And I think actually like that's what people want. So that's exactly what we should build. But the question is how unstructured will it be?
From the majority of projects I've been on, and including the Drupal Europe website, we have not had this big pile of one content field contains everything approach. Everything is paragraphed, everything is built up in data structures, etc. Which also comes into play when we are using it on more than this one platform that we are creating the content on. We are using it for mobile apps, we are using it for info screens, we're using for all other things that are related to the website. So we are not just building pages, we're also building small pieces of content that are used in multiple contexts. Yeah. And Gothenburg is great for the one-page context, but I don't see it as a good fit for actually building data structures for other places.
Yeah, I think Gutenberg is more like a way that we are seeing it, but on behind it, it's not the same.
I had good conversations with Alex about that recently, and I think it's mainly Gutenberg is well designed for creating landing pages or that kind of style, but because Drupal is structured content, I think we need to put an emphasis on the structured content side of things as well, because otherwise API first, for example, just is useless.
And like in any site I've built, as long as I can think back since I've been at Lollabot, which is a long time now, like Gutenberg wouldn't really be useful for any of it. So, you know, it's the constant tension in Drupal of people trying to build very different things for very different uses. So we've got to be a little bit more specific to what we're building this initiative for, I hope.
Yeah, I personally disagree that it would be only for landing pages, because I think the Medium example is a pretty good one, that if you have these like more visually enhanced articles, that Gutenberg is a pretty good fit for that type of use case as well. Because you don't really need structured content for that. You just want to build visually enhanced.
I don't know. I mean, like, I work on news sites. Like, we do need that structured content, but we also sometimes need it to look nice.
I think you need structured content. It's just that for that specific use case, you don't need it.
Well, I also think that we actually need like to interview structured and unstructured content together. Like, I think it's really common to have like articles, but then also have meta information about these articles. So I think it maybe the Gutenberg thing will be more of a like from a data model perspective, will be one of the fields of a content type or something like that. But that's all open for discussion, and yeah, we encourage you to get involved.
I mean, I really like the initiatives pushing things forward. My big concern from a systems administration level is that I've got a whole new tool chain of stuff that is dependent on stuff that I didn't understand before. Do we know how we're going to adopt other people's tool chains so that we don't have to, do it ourselves and still be secure and long term?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, one of the things we build off is create React app. So we don't sort of worry about that toolchain side of things. If you try the demo out now, it actually all comes pre-bundled, so you don't even need to have Node, and all you need is PHP to try out this demo. You don't need Node or anything. I think if you are adding extensions, we're going to have to require you to have Node so you can rebuild that JavaScript bundle. I don't know if we could have that as a remote service or, do something hacky. I'm not sure. I don't think we're going to try and not place too many extra things on. But I would say that if you're doing front-end development right now, can you stick your hand up if you're doing front-end development? Okay, now keep them up. Take your hand down if you're not using Node to do anything like, compile Sass or... Yeah, so like literally everyone who's doing front-end development is also using Node right now. So I don't think we're introducing anything that people don't already have or that is radical.
I think it's a really good question, and it really connects with like the Composer initiative, because the Composer initiative will also basically introduce this kind of like extra tool, right? Composer will be maybe in the future the only way how you can build a Drupal site, and that introduces like a build step. And in this build step, we will probably also build our JS.
Oh, I don't have anything to add.
Oh, okay, but you can still take it.
Yeah, so our time is up, but I think we can continue for a few more minutes because there's a break now. So feel free to leave the room if you have to go somewhere, if you need to take a break. We don't get offended by that. If you want to continue the discussion, feel free to stay in the room because we still have some more things that we would like to discuss.
Yeah, I forgot the one for the UX.
And an actual meeting.
Everyone is hungry, no one wants to stay more. So we can just wrap up.
Is there actually